Patton, thank you for doing this. This is wonderful.
Thanks for having me on. Seriously, I'm flattered. So thank you.
No, I was very touched and flattered that you picked up Radiant Black number 18 because we had put a lot of love and hard work into it. And I know that like Kyle Higgins is a badass and like the types of stories that he writes are amazing. So I wanted to say thank you for the nice things that you said on Twitter because we knew that it was good, but seeing people kind of give some love to it was really amazing for me for it being the first time that I had done a book.
I'm sorry, that's your first ever comic writing?
Yes.
Then I'm even more blown away. That was some genius storytelling. The way that you show the three threads over the years and how something in the past now affects something in the present, affects something in the future. I read it twice. I love the way it was laid out. I love when people do creative, risky things with storytelling, any kind of storytelling, music, films, and that was just brilliant. I mean, I could see that as a brilliant. I don't know what will ever happen with the Radiant universe, the massive universe that he's making, but that would be an incredible episode of television. The way that it was structured just really blew me away.
Yeah, it's crazy, Patton, because what happened was that we had like a bunch of the storylines that we ended up putting into the 4 different time periods. We had thought about doing them all, but then Kyle kind of blew everything up and he said, what if we did this at the same time? And so I'm sitting there with him like, this is impossible. Like, especially for me being on like rookie level of doing comic book writing, how the hell are we going to pull this off? And we did. And I'm so glad that you appreciated like that type of storytelling because we wanted to give a real reason on why Wendell, aka Radiant Yellow, is doing what he's doing. What's he driven by? What's his motivation? And I thought that the way that we could have done it in 4 different issues, but to do it in one, I thought was fantastic. And I'm glad that it turned out the way that it did.
I can't believe he threw you into the deep end that way. That's so any other, I almost feel bad for you because any subsequent comic writer unless it's at that level, it's just going to seem like a shrug. What a debut!
Well, thank you. And he said to me because I guess we're nominated for an Eisner, and he goes, he's like, your first book, and you're nominated for an Eisner. I was like, oh, well, I mean, hey, it be's like that. But you know what's cool?
You could be like the John Cazale of comic book writing, right? With the perfect batting average.
Because that dude died young. Let's not wish that on him.
No, Laurence is already old.
Oh my God! Hey, so in other words, you're saying he'll do 4 more amazing comic books and then drop dead?
Sure, fine.
I mean, if that's the legacy, then that ends up being the legacy. And I know that you've drifted into these waters too with all sorts of different stuff. When it comes to your creative process, did you ever think that we would be at a place? We're all around the same age. I think you and Dan are the same age. Mm-hmm. I'm a few years younger. Did you ever think that we were going to be able to visualize and see on the small screen and the big screen that geek stuff that we had in our mind, the way that it's been produced over the last 10 to 15 years?
No, and I didn't. There was a time when, and I love all this stuff, but you get that feeling of, are my visions going to be good enough to translate into comics, into film, into TV? Because you see the amazing visions that are being made, but you've got to put your stuff out there. And you just found out that, yes, absolutely you can. And I've got a book out now from Dark Horse called Minor Threats. Issue 2 came out 2 days ago. And, I mean, working with an artist, you have this idea for a story, then you see it visualized, and it's how blown away were you when you saw how it was not just drawn but laid out, and you realized, oh, this story actually works.
So, Patton, the crazy part about this is our artist, Stefano Simeone, who lives in Italy, who's incredible. Like, he's incredible. Wow. We went through all of this, and he asked me for different things that I was looking for. So Kyle asked me questions that I didn't realize were going to go into making and creating the character, where he was like, okay, who is this guy? And I was like, well, he's an engineer who has a PhD from Purdue. How old is he? Like, what music does he listen to? How does he dress? And so a couple of things, I've sent this to Kadeem Hardison, because I wanted him. I was influenced by A Different World a lot. I still watch reruns of it. I still love it. It's one of my favorite shows ever. Because he was an engineer like Dwayne Wayne was, I actually have him dressed in one of the sequences. He is wearing
the sunglasses.
No, not the glasses,
okay,
but the outfit that Dwayne Wayne wears on A Different World. So I sent him a screenshot of that, and he did it. And with Wendell's daughter, since it's 2002, I said, well, a young woman living in Gary in 2002 would probably be influenced by Aaliyah. And so he went and looked up pictures of Aaliyah, and he went and he was able to kind of convey that in the way that he did it. So when I saw it, I'm honestly still in awe of it, because Kyle just sent me the Infinite Edition that folds out, where you can do, which I also think is a piece of creative genius by him, where you can lay it out and read the whole thing. I couldn't believe it was what I had imagined in my mind.
Yeah, I've read the issue twice. Now I got to read it again, and I'm going to bother Kyle to send me the fold-out Infinite Edition. There was an issue of Nightwing that came out a few months ago that is also, I mean, it's in comic book form, but you can fold it out as one continuous piece of action. It's like watching one of those unbroken shots in films or TV. That's how they did it in the comic.
When you're talking about influences, I wanted you to know this, because this is so special, and our son is really excited about this, because when he was 3 years old, he saw Ratatouille for the first time. And he's 17 now, and is a huge movie fan, and studies all kinds of different film. Ratatouille is still his favorite movie, and for different reasons. And when he was very young, we went to Paris, and he was lucky. He wanted to go stand in that area by the Seine when Linguini first realizes that Remy is something special, and he wanted to put himself in those areas and go to bistros that conjured all of these images and smell the smells and hear the crackle of the bread himself. It's been really, really important to him. But I will tell you, I've seen the movie multiple times since. What a timeless, I know the word timeless is thrown around. It really is. It really is. It can, I don't care if it was, 30 years from now, that as a piece of art itself, a piece of animated work, is going to stand up brilliantly. Yeah,
that is one of those movies. There are certain movies that you watch when you're young, like my best example is The Bad News Bears. When you watch it when you're young, you're like, ha, the kids are cursing, this is great. And then as you watch it as you get older, you realize that it's about so much more stuff. It's about parenting and sports and obsession, and there are certain movies, certain books, certain everything that you can look at them at different ages and they mean different things. Just like I'm sure Ratatouille will be a different thing for him when he becomes a parent, or when he or when he starts pursuing what he does artistically. It'll keep hitting him differently. That's what a really great piece of work does.
Well, Ratatouille is there is an undercurrent about classism and racism and opportunity within capitalism, and it's funny. Some of this hit home. We've been doing the college search, and we had our one of our big college trips. William and Mary was one of our stops. Your alma mater. And we toured William and Mary, and it's funny, we're looking at it, and my wife said, she said, "Oh, Jen Psaki went here," and my son's like, "Mom, Patton Oswalt went here," and I look at both of them like, Thomas Jefferson went here. What are you calling? Is Thomas Jefferson not good enough for either of you? But I don't know when the last time you've been back to your school, but I found the tour to be really interesting in how they, at William and Mary, how they reconcile the history of who built those buildings, and what they've done with the debt to enslaved people that literally built that place, and how tenuous and how conflicted it is. The conflict was palpable on that tour.
Well, I think the conflict is palpable for people our age and older, but I'm still in contact with, I get, fan mail from on my Instagram from students that are at William and Mary now. And for the younger generation, they very openly embrace, this is what happened. It was horrible. This is how we can make it better now. Rather than tiptoeing around it and going, oh, this is real bad. They're just like, no, let's just openly say it and then make it so that things are better for people now. Like they really kind of live in that space. I think that's something that's going to happen with Gen Z and after, that's really going to shake up whatever's left of the boomers and whatever's left of like a lot of the Gen Xers. Is a lot of the stuff that we are fighting about, they're not going to fight about. It's not going to be a thing. Right. It just won't be a thing for them. Like, the idea of like people in the progressive early aughts that had gay, lesbian, and trans clubs in their school, that's going to seem silly to Gen Z and after. Like, why would you have a club for that? People are just open. Like, for them, they're all very open about how fluid sexuality is. It's not that big of a deal. So why do you, like, people are just openly, I don't need to go somewhere special to be gay. I'm just whatever I am, whenever I am. No one cares, and that's really fascinating.
I truly appreciate that in your specials, in the last two of them, you've talked about this. So it almost feels as like you've got the anthropology PhD, where you're looking at, the greatest generation and then the boomers and then all of us Gen Xers and how progress is supposed to go. Bit that you have about the death rattle of each generation then being exemplified in who ends up being president is phenomenal stuff, Patton.
Thank you. Well, I mean, there are some, nobody likes getting old. It's hard to reconcile that, oh, you're not the new thing anymore, and there's a generation coming after you that is already ahead of you progressive-wise, so let them go. We need to have Gen X might be the first generation that's actually comfortable with actively getting out of the way. And just go, you know what, I'm going to go off and die, whatever, never mind. Like, if we truly embrace the whatever, never mind ethos, we will be the happiest generation to die and get out of the way and let the kids take over and make things better. That would be really nice.
And that's why I think your Twitter feed and some of the retweets, for those of us who struggle with doom scrolling and struggle with the weight of it, even in a well-curated feed, for balancing wanting to be informed with trying not to be miserable all the time, I think you do a really good job with that. And I think when we focus on, at least for me, I like to think that what you say about our kids, about how, it's the parents that care about all this stuff. The kids are cool with so much, and the kids are going to be cool with it. And I always wonder, are we putting too much on them to say, save us? We'll get out of the way. We'll go die. Right. We'll be in a box in the ground. Is that fair to say you're going to redeem everything? I don't know if it is, or if it's just going to happen naturally.
If you care about the environment and you're over a certain age, you should just die.
Right.
The best thing
yes. No, it's not a joke. He's right.
Back into the earth. That is the greenest thing you can do is die. So go do that.
Patton, I love the stuff that you've done with The Boys, with the show The Boys. And it's so good and it's so dark and so funny. I'm trying to get Dan to start watching it, because I know he would love it. If he could just get to it, he would love it. What I love about that is that there's such a freedom, and that's what I was saying about earlier, where some of the stuff, whether we're talking about Watchmen or The Boys, like some of this stuff where it's absurd and it's dark and it's hard to digest some of it. I love that we are now in a space through some of the streaming services that we're getting an opportunity for those stories to be told in absurd ways.
Yeah. First off, I'm very jealous of Dan getting to watch The Boys for the first time. I would love to erase that memory and get to experience the whole thing for the first time again. It really does embrace those levels, that level of absurdity that we have to live with every day. It immediately acknowledges that, which I think is really important.
What was your prep, your research, and your process like for Big Fan? Because in our world, and when we get to have fun with the crazy fan, we call them the meatballs, and we get to screw around with it. But there's obviously a dark side to it that you had to go find.
Oof. Well, first off, everyone I've ever talked to in sports media, sports radio, all have encountered someone like Paul. They would have their, oh my God, we had this one caller every week. We knew that the same time he would call. It was clearly scripted. We're like, oh, it's time for Ronnie. Here he is. But you can feel that loneliness. And so for me, because I don't really follow sports, but I do understand being obsessed with things and letting something kind of take over your life. And I've seen the dark versions of that in other people's lives, how that can really, I mean, you see it now with a lot of, lo and behold, it's not just sports fans that can be toxic. It's science fiction fans, comic book fans, there are always the people that take it too far. So just knowing that, rubbing up against that level of obsession made it very easy for me to understand that character.
I can't let you out of here if we don't talk about King of Queens, Patton, because there are a lot of fans who listen to the score that love King of Queens, and I'm one of them. I love it. What was that time like for you? And do people still yell, get out when they see you on the street, scream, King of Queens, King of Queens?
I get a lot of King of Queens love. The show's on like 3 times a day, apparently, in most cities now. It's aged so well because they really leaned into, we want each episode to be just this freestanding silliness. And that time for me was really instructive because I was not a good actor. And so I had to learn very quickly through osmosis from Kevin James, who's a genius, who is just a instinctual genius actor. The stuff he can do without dialogue is amazing. And then, of course, Jerry Stiller. Learning at the feet of Jerry Stiller, he would throw scenes off because he would get laughs with lines that weren't laughs. Like if he would come into a room and go, the way he would say, hello, Douglas, that would get a laugh, and it would throw the rhythm off of the scene. Every single thing he said got a laugh. It was amazing.
Patton, this was really special, and it's so nice of you to take the time to do this. Thank you, and really appreciate it. This was a lot of fun.
Guys, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it, and enjoy Chicago. You guys are in Chicago, right?
We are.
Yeah, hopefully I can get back there soon. I was there this summer. I really miss it. I want to go back.
Well, when you do come back, please let us know because we'd love to have you here. And the two specials, the latest special out is really, really hilarious. And the last one from 2019, I think, is really good too. Thank you so much for what you said about Radiant Black 18, man. I really, really appreciate it.
Guys, even if you don't read comics, just pick up Radiant Black 18 just to see how they pull it off. It is stunning. It's genuinely stunning what they pulled off.
That is high praise. Sir, thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Take it easy.
That's Patton Oswalt.